Hi, Manu. How are you?
Hey Mark, I'm
Um,
okay.
so on my machine, when I run virtual machines for development,
Yeah,
it sometimes blue screens when I turn my video on. So somehow Hyper-V conflict. So I'm gonna try my video, and if I disappear, this means I blue screened, and I'm gonna have to come back.
no worries.
Let's try this. Oh,
There
wow,
you
it
are.
worked. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, it
good to
usually
see you in
happens.
the familiar background. It could be a
Yeah,
recording. I wouldn't know any better.
I know it could be an avatar of myself.
That's right.
All right. So I was just going to give people a couple of minutes to join. Let me bring you up to speed. So uh, the IETF did not get a hearing of our informational draft because they were only taking on already adopted work, just schedule constraints.
Yeah, I saw your note. Yeah.
And there is going to be an interim meeting. And by the interim meeting, I certainly want to improve the draft. And I was thinking about it, and I have this intuition, and I'll say my intuition is sometimes wrong, not often. And uh, it is that we can achieve a like I don't know, to me, like okay, one since I'm on a self-promotion role here, kind of a breakthrough for workload identity in that I believe we can make it so that I start my workload and I should be able to utilize an effectively an API, much like you under Spire, you have workload API that allows the workload to procure whatever credentials its hosting environment allows it to procure. And I now wrote down the architecture, and I'm doing a POC on it.
Okay.
I mean, I could, of course, use help. I know everyone's busy, and this is where at some point in time you're basically saying, look, no, nobody's coming to your rescue. Uh, but certainly another pair of eyes and a consult would be very helpful. But I wrote enough about it, so I've identified the architecture, I've identified the uh, sort of the end-to-end flow that I envision, how I would like to demo it. And I found all the open source components that I would need to extend for this. I filtered it through by programming language. I want to be able to do everything in Go.
Okay.
And the API I want to define that the workload would utilize is a protobuf.
Okay.
Okay, so because I feel like this is something that would and then that if we could standardize that, I believe this becomes our IETF contribution because it's actually very, very concrete. And we
Hmm.
could if we can prove it with code, uh, and again, the first draft of everything is shit, Ernest Hemingway got it. But I'd rather have something than nothing.
Yeah.
So let me show you now what it is that I have in mind. If others join, then
Yeah,
uh,
I was particularly interested in this unified model that you have and trying to understand it better and see how our approach matches that.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
So, I mean, to be transparent, as you know, I don't think we have any cycles. We now have
yeah.
actual paying folks, and we
Yep.
need to execute on our stuff. But if you're interested, we could have. Have you ever met Neil, our CTO?
Yes, of course.
Okay, yeah, yeah, of course you did. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just losing track of the different threads. Of course you did. If you wanted, we could organize a meeting with Neil so that you can talk to somebody who's more competent than I am at
Yeah, yeah.
the level that you're talking to, because then he can give you his
Yeah.
perspective on it.
I
If
would
you want to do that,
absolutely
we
love
can
it.
certainly spend an hour doing that.
I
Yeah.
would absolutely. There was one sacrificial lamb in my proposal in that I do not believe I can preserve the Spire workload APIs that exist, but I'm
Hold
prepared
on,
to.
you say that again. You
The
cannot.
SPIFFE workload API, that parameterless contraption that prevents confidential computing from the workload ever performing its own remote attestation.
Yeah.
So I want to extend the workload API specifically for confidential workloads.
Okay.
And that's going to be, so I'm actually going to fork Spire for my POC.
Okay, so that is actually interesting because Neil actually just finished a end-to-end demo of two workloads in two different, trust domains with off-the-shelf Spire agents. And of course, the workloads are not confidential because, as you say, we can't
Yeah,
make it.
yeah,
But so he's right there in this mind space right now, in this headspace.
good.
So if you want to have a conversation about
I
indeed
do.
how the
I do.
API should be modified, we should do that. Yeah.
Let me show you. So I start like I always start with requirements. So at least we need to ground ourselves in what it is we actually want to achieve. So let's actually go through them one by one.
You put the link to this doc in the minutes. You
Yes, I've
wrote
been
the
also
minutes already?
modifying it this morning. Yes.
Okay.
But let's go through it together so we understand. So
Sure.
basically, the idea is that my workload starts, right? It's like it's virgin, it's innocent, it knows nothing.
Hmm.
Maybe it knows a few things through control plane, like through configuration. It certainly knows no secret.
Right.
And it basically has to be able to obtain credentials. Now, those credentials could be new, freshly minted for
Yeah.
this workload instance, or they can be pre-existing.
Okay.
And it actually, when it wakes up, it actually has no idea. It needs to discover at runtime. So maybe the only thing it needs or it knows is I need to authenticate to these targets.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Of course, because
Maybe it
it
knows
knows who it
that,
needs to talk to.
or
Yes.
maybe it knows that I'm gonna authenticate to these targets, and I expect to this target, I expect to authenticate via TLS, so I need a certificate. Like so, but it needs like it has just enough to get started.
Yes.
Now, but in the end, I want the mechanism to be able to support all new and future, all existing and future credential types. So
Right.
these are the ones that I know about. So they
Okay.
could be straight up X-Finance certificates, or they could be whimsy workload identity certificates, or they could
That's
be
nice.
workload identity tokens, or they could be bearer tokens, or they could be per shared keys, or whatever it is.
Yep.
All right. And then through architectural extensibility, and I'll show you how I'm thinking about that once I switch to some code, some future formats. Who knows? Who knows what people will come up with?
Right.
All right. So then I want to make sure that
Like
the
mesh keys. Yeah.
minimal trust boundary expansion of the workload implementation. Effectively, what I'm saying here without saying it is I'm not pulling the Spire agent into my workload.
Okay. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
So
I love
basically,
that.
I
And
want
anything that minimizes trust boundary is definitely
Yeah,
something we
so
input
I
in.
want it to be like essentially a gRPC client with a given protobuf that has the stub for this language and which the workload is implemented, and that's it. Or maybe
Yeah,
it's an aside.
those are the words that will tell Neil because those are the words that I get beyond what I understand. But basically, I get the drift. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So then I've identified the following at least three credential mechanisms. I want to prototype the first two.
Okay.
So I'm actually going to say it here, targeted for POC. Okay. So um, these are the ones I want to actually POC. Acme, I believe it can be done. I just don't necessarily. I believe I can do the first and show the first two. I'll get to that one. And again, future mechanisms through architectural extensibility.
Okay.
Okay, so EST is this HTTP protocol that basically allows you to request existing or mint new credentials just over HTTP.
Yeah. Why don't you put Spire first?
Doesn't matter.
Okay. So I thought you
I
had a
want both.
preference. Okay.
No, I don't have a. This is not a priority order. This is
Okay.
I
Okay.
want the first two, and I'm
Yeah,
mentioning that could be anything.
because Spire would feel tactically like if we could show, something
Yeah,
using Spiffy Spire, then of course I think it becomes easier to receive on the other side, right?
yeah.
The ITF
It's
guys are all into that.
either. I want both, but Spire is slightly more ambitious because I actually have to go change the Spire workload API. EST also cannot be used as is the EST protocol.
Okay.
It needs basically new REST endpoints.
Yeah. And Neil did mention, I was asking him if, we do everything in Rust in the mesh, inside the mesh.
Yeah.
But I asked him if the Spire, because we were after the call last time, I was wondering if we could, in fact, swallow the Spire agent in a SGX or TDX
You can because there are protobuf stubs that can be compiled.
and so he basically told me that yeah, that it's a Go implementation. It's not
Yeah.
Rust, so it would have,
So
yeah, it
yeah,
would have
please
to be
share
the,
this with Neil, and then
yes,
we can have a follow-up conversation with him.
sounds good.
All right. So then the other thing is, it could be that the workload needs to authenticate to multiple targets, and with different targets needs to use different types of creds.
Utilizing different creds for, yep, of
Okay.
course.
So that's just, it's not like a workload starts and is only allowed one target and one credential type. No, like it
Right.
it could be an AI agent that discovers at runtime and needs to talk to these other things.
Oh, you used
By
the
the
word
way,
agents right
I don't
there,
know
AI agents.
if you saw my response yesterday.
I did see your
I
response,
went on a rambling tirade.
but it was way more diplomatic than mine, and it was you had more time, obviously, but or you write much faster than I do. But yes, it's AI agent is like
This
seriously,
was half of what I had to. I actually had to hold my pen back.
I'm sure.
Anyway, it will still get adopted. I just wanted to,
Yeah.
make my concern, my lack of support known. And then,
Yes.
anyway, so then I believe that whether the mechanism is background check or passport, the workload doesn't know or care.
Yeah, because the workload receives whatever it receives,
It
and then
literally, I believe we can structure its interactions with the hosting environment in such a way that basically says, you know, I want credential for this target, and you go figure it out. I believe it's possible. All right,
oh,
and
I mean, not with an off-the-shelf. Everything you're saying here is that the workload is itself. Well, of course, it is modified because it will be
no, the
running.
workload is modified because it needs to call
Yes,
new API. But
correct, correct.
I
And
it
it's running this. You're talking about a confidential workload, right?
Yes,
Something
I'm talking
running
about
in
a
a.
confidential workload,
Got it.
but I'm also basically saying I can drop it into an environment. Like take a workload, I compiled it, and I drop it into an environment. That environment uses Spire in background check model, or drop it into another environment that uses EST in background check model or
Okay.
passport model. The workload does like not one line of code changes about the workload.
Okay.
It'll just work. It doesn't matter because it's those decisions happen elsewhere. And finally, this is so I can work with Nitro. The workload is not assumed to have independent network access. It's not going to be talking to, it doesn't have a network endpoint. All it has is this API that I'm going to give it
To talk to the Spire agent.
to talk to its hosting environment over this API. So I'm defining this, and we're going to get into this, a credential acquisition API that are called CAPI.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah.
All right. So let's go into the architecture. So inside my trust boundary is my workload. And
Yeah.
to the workload, I added this CAPI client. I have literally nothing else in my workload. No network stack, no HTTP stack, no nothing. Just these new APIs that it can use.
Yeah.
And with that, it should be able to obtain a credential. So outside the trust boundary, this CAPI server, it's again the server side of my protobuf.
Okay.
And the CAPI server is hosted by this thing that's opaque to the workload that I call the credential acquisition system. We'll get into what exactly that looks like.
Okay.
That itself is a client server contraption. This will span machines, but from the point of view of my workload, I'm just invoking my client API that gets serviced by this thing that in turn talks to my RATS verifier, my identity provider, my key credential store. All of that happens here on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
Okay. So every workload, and this is probably the same in words, implements a credential acquisition API client and uses that to invoke corresponding CAPI server hosted by the credential acquisition system, which resides outside the workload's trust boundary.
Oh, hold on, hold on. So even the rights verifier is behind your
Everything.
CAPI server. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this really looks like our trustee architecture, actually, because if you
Hey.
think about it, right, our mesh agents are the green box. It talks to, we don't use protobuf, we use CBOR, but essentially, an
Yeah.
object representation. And then the trustee is everything you have on the right outside of your trust boundary there is the trustee network. And then, of course, our verifiers are themselves
Look,
recursively verified.
you'll
So it
know that
looks very similar.
good ideas generally converge.
Yeah, because it is the optimal, it is, as you said, the minimization of the trust boundary there is to limit what that workload can talk to and how it gets recognized, identified, authenticated, and
Right.
then given the right to connect to something else. And
Correct.
it, yeah, so
All
totally
right.
with you.
So scroll down a little bit. So the credential acquisition system, so that's my CAS, utilizes a number of services, as I said, identity
Hold
provider.
on. Oh yeah, the cast in the middle. Okay, got
Yeah,
it.
identity provider for minting new credentials, RATS verifier for exchanging evidence for attestation results, and the key or credential store for retrieving pre-provisioned keys and credentials.
Yeah.
And the nature of these interactions is mechanism dependent. Notice the workload is oblivious.
Uh, Say that again. The what? The nature of these interactions between rights verify
Between the
exchanging.
CAS and its backend services.
Yes, it's mechanism independent from the perspective of the workload itself.
Yes.
But it does have, of course, those mechanisms do
Um,
have
um,
implication on the the overall trust and attack surface of the whole system. But yes,
mhm.
from the workload perspective, it's basically it's a message API, right?
Yeah.
Message-based API, whatever format, whatever
Yeah. The
you know
workload doesn't know or care.
protocol, doesn't matter. Yeah,
Okay. So and then there is a diagram below that again, I'm just basically targeting just EST and Spire variants. And the reason I want to do two is because they're different and I want to make sure this is not specially built for any one thing,
understood.
right? So so I have, let's go take a look at this. I'm gonna zoom in just a little bit so you have a better view here.
Yeah, I see fine. This is plenty. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
I have a
So
big screen. Yeah, it's all good.
yeah, this is good. Okay. So all right. So this is now, there is no workload in these pictures.
There is no workloads.
In these pictures. So like
Oh,
when you see
they're all
the CAPI
cast. Yeah,
server that I have in the middle here, CAPI
yeah.
server, that's the CAPI server. The workload is effectively something that invokes the CAPI server. I just didn't draw it.
I see, I see. And yeah, that's it. It's the CAS, right? The credential acquisition system. And you have, are these four different variations? Yes,
They
these are
are.
four.
So
Okay,
this is for freshly minted credentials and for pre-provisioned keys or credentials. And again, freshly minted credentials, pre-provisioned key or credentials. One, two, three, four.
okay.
All right. So like look how similar they look. Just eyeball them for a second. It's
Uh,
Spire on the right and it's EST on the left.
okay, hold on. And then, but the two in the middle are also variations, right?
They're all four variations. But just let's
Okay,
go through them from let's do one, three, two, and four.
okay.
Okay. So
Just for fun.
here's my
One,
credential acquisition API server, and it's the EST client. It issues EST commands. It issues EST commands to the EST server. This is for freshly minted credentials, right? So there is a certificate authority here.
yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't spend time looking at the EST protocol, but
It doesn't
I
matter.
trust
It's
you.
the same
Okay,
thing. So it basically says, mint me a new credential and here's a CSR, or give me an existing credential and
got
here's a
it.
credential identifier or
Got it. Got it.
something
Yeah,
like that. Okay.
right.
Right. So we basically go to it and say, yeah, here to my EST server or to my EST client goes to the EST server and basically says, give me here is some evidence and give me back a credential. It's a variant of EST. So the EST protocol gets extended, but it's effectively the EST protocol just with slightly different commands. And
Okay.
the EST server takes the evidence, goes to the verifier, gets back attestation results, takes the attestation results to the certificate authority, gets a new credential minted, and returns it back to the workload,
Okay.
right? And over here, the EST server will be, well, actually, let's go to Spire now for a second. So there is a Spire agent. And again, I go to the Spire agent and I say, here's some evidence. This gets converted into the Spire command to the Spire server. And it says, here's some evidence.
So hold on,
And
the evidence comes from the workload
from
then.
the workload, yes, through the CAPI
Ah,
server.
okay. So how does the workload know that it's talking to
It doesn't know or care.
the Spire agent? to the
It
right.
doesn't know or care because the CAPI server takes the evidence that's supplied by the workload and converts it into Spire commands.
Yeah, I understand
And
the
over here, it converts them into EST commands.
the transformation, which is indeed just a change in format or messaging.
Yeah.
But from a trust perspective, how does the workload know that it need? I mean, you have to configure it to talk to the local Spire agent.
No, it's you only all it does, it calls the CAPI client, and the CAPI client talks to the CAPI server.
Yeah, but how does the CAPI client know to trust the CAPI server?
It doesn't need to trust it.
It doesn't need to trust it.
The only trust you have is with your certificate authority and your verifier.
Okay.
The Spire agent, Spire server, those things are effectively a pipe to get you to the trusted agent to that will actually give you something that you care to receive.
Yes, it may be correct. And so indeed, your workload must be aware of the trust infrastructure that it wants to connect to, right? So,
Uh,
but it doesn't need to know about anything that's in the middle, in
yeah,
between passing the
yeah.
thing.
I mean, in the ultimate, it may be that my credential acquisition system contains both EST and Spire, and depending on which target the workload asks for, it may, send it this way or that way.
Okay.
Because literally, what your CAPI server does, it translates, depending on who hosts it, it translates the evidence that the workload supplies either into EST command or into Spire command.
Okay.
And then, so the same thing, Spire server here, which is there's a lot of open source code that I can reuse, basically takes the evidence that it supplies, turns it around, goes to the certificate authority, says, mint me a new cred for this, returns it, and like works with the verifier to supply it, like to send the evidence along.
But so in all this, your green box there, the credential acquisition system, is itself attested and verified?
Nope.
That's where that hurts my head, my brain.
Well,
Because
do you need to attest your router in order to?
no, I mean, you're probably right. But again, it's because, it took us a while to be able to get to the, assurance of no man in the middle and things like that in our protocol.
Yeah,
And I'm trying to see if there is, again, if this reopens the possibility of. But I think you're correct that basically it's just translation along the way, right?
correct. Because like the worst that will happen is your evidence will get sent to the wrong verifier. Well,
Right.
you may get back the wrong
But that's
credential, then you can't use it. It's a denial of service more than anything.
right. And that's what, Osama would say it can be sent to a compromised, platform, then it gets, but again, we are talking here about a managed end-to-end system, not we just let those workloads talk to the whole world. As you said, the workload should be constrained by design,
Yeah.
right? So I think it's legit. Yeah.
Right. So anyway, so 2 and 4 is the same, but there is no minted credential. I'm just basically here in the second column. The EST server or the Spire server, doesn't matter, receives the evidence, goes, talks to the verifier. The verifier, here are your attestation results. Those attestation results then go to the credential store and says, okay, well, give me back for these attestation results, give me back the cred. And these are pre-provisioned. These are our replica workload scenario that goes now that turns around, goes back to the server and says, well, here's your.
So they're pre-provisioned, so we're passing a decryption key so that the workload can retrieve its encrypted
Correct. Gets,
private
yeah.
key.
So it
Okay.
gets basically yeah. So
Okay.
it's all the in our TWI
Yes, yes,
profile.
yes.
All
So
of
I,
that
I
is defined.
remember I remember the pre-provisioning and then yeah. Okay.
Right. So that's really this is the flow. Now, what I did here is I said, okay, here is your EST and passport mode. Here's your EST and background check model, Spire and passport mode, Spire and background check mode. There is some sort of hello world app. So this is my POC, right? Hello world app that maybe it wants to get a TLS credential for to secure its transport, and then another WIT token to secure application. Again, that's
Okay.
POC. The goes, so it wakes up and fetches 2 creds.
Okay.
My CAPI server here is going to be an EST client with a CAPI plugin, or it could be a Spire agent with a CAPI plugin.
Okay.
And my CAS client,
So EST, you found EST also has a plugin concept?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Okay.
mean, there is a global sign, like I'll show you, like all the
Yeah,
open
it's
source
okay.
code
It's
I
just
found.
that I knew about Spire, the Spire agent having a plugin framework. I just didn't know about the EST
Well,
thing.
because yeah,
So,
because ultimately it needs to translate it into the new EST commands. So yeah, there are SDKs I can extend.
okay.
So the CAS client is a global sign EST client that I found. So there is a library, or there could
Okay.
be a Spire agent.
Okay.
That's my CAS client. So the CAS client is hosts the CAPI server,
Right,
right?
right, right.
So
It's embedded inside the
right, and the CAS server is now global sign EST server or Spire server again with a plugin.
right.
And then the CA, I found a step CA that is again written in Go, easily extensible,
Okay.
and it has integrations with Spire already, has integrations with EST already.
Okay.
HashiCorp Vault for KMS, again open source.
Okay.
Verizon for RATS verifier, and I create some sort of HTTP server with TLS as my RATS on the way relying party.
Fun stuff. You're gonna have fun.
So these are all the links to existing open source code that I can extend.
Yeah, so we're not going to be able to help you with the actual
Yeah.
development. If you can go back, scroll back to the place, yeah, that box, yeah. So what we now have is basically the mesh as the full attestation, KMS, CA, starting from the right, moving to the left, right? We have all
Hmm.
these things. We have the Spire server, and then we plan to use off-the-shelf Spire agents. And we were discussing whether or not we could have an extension using a plugin and do something different there. So it really is the last, 3 boxes that maybe we can, help brainstorm that could align with the stuff that we are, trying to demonstrate. But anyway, just setting your expectation that, everything on the right of that stuff it would be a distraction for us,
Yeah.
which we can't afford. Yeah, I mean, it's to me that the next thing, right, is I'm really curious, and I understand you want to make sure that this is not perceived as a not a point solution. That's not what I'm looking for. A forced specification, but just to open up the different options, in fact, creates more confusion in my opinion. And we should, my recommend, I mean, I think if Spire and Spiffy is what the Whimsy guys and everybody else is standardizing on, I think that's the path that's more promising because it's going to be easier for them to adopt. That would be my only feedback is
So,
that
say that again.
that so the design principles that we used when we built our system was systematically looking for the least, smallest attack surface, least trust required, incremental trust required. And that's how we ended up with the system that we think has the smallest attack surface and trust required.
Yeah.
Um, but so applying the same principle on the existing world would indicate that instead of proposing 2 or 3 different things, that we should strongly recommend one thing for the existing world to migrate towards the ideal world. And that would be more, I would lean towards the Spiffy Spire,
But the
POC.
point is there's not going to be a difference. So you hear what I'm saying? So today, so let's okay, forget about this. Today, if I want to play in Spireland, I have
Yeah.
to take my client and implement and teach it to call the Spire Workload API,
Hmm.
right? So there is this fetch certificate, whatever call. I need to make it. The workload needs to change to make that call.
Right.
By doing so, I included the Spire agent, the node attestation, and the Spire server into my TCB.
That's right.
Okay. What I'm saying is take your workload, and if it's a confidential workload, teach it this CAPI API.
Yeah.
Okay, much like you would have to teach it the Spire API.
Understood. Yeah.
Okay, make it call this API, and at that point in time, you no longer know or care if this CAPI API is serviced by Spire or it's serviced by EST or Acme V2 or whatever else.
But why? So my question to you then is, why do you care that it serves multiple,
I care
things?
because some enterprises may have established EST servers for handling out credentials, and others may have Spire for handing out credentials,
So you
and
have
other.
knowledge, first-hand knowledge of such deployments that you want to cater to.
Yeah, I cannot go into an enterprise and say, tear out your EST servers and replace them with Spire servers.
Okay, got
I
it.
can't say that if your workloads implement this new API, and by the way, even this API, if you know, if your API knows how, this will be the second level, but if your API server, sorry, if your workload knows how to talk to Envoy to obtain credentials, that can be all in an Envoy sidecar.
Okay,
So then your workload doesn't need to change at all.
cool. Okay,
So,
so
and
anyway,
again,
I get it. Yeah.
that's that. So what I'm saying is, for this, for the effectively for the cost of adopting Spire, which you would need to do anyway, you can now work with any of these mechanisms, and also not increase your trust boundary. You actually know you don't need to trust the Spire agent here. You don't need to trust the Spire server here. Now, the fact that you need to trust your verifier and your identity provider and your key store, those are already in your TCB. That's unavoidable. But I'm also not increasing the size of your TCB.
I agree. I agree. Okay.
So that's, yeah.
So you're going to build that yourself, or you
Well,
have folks?
I'm gonna try and get as many folks as I can roped in. Um, yeah.
Cool. And you want to do that by when is the
Well, I mean,
interim meeting?
I'm giving myself a month. I'll probably burn a bunch of tokens, but it's
Yes.
ambitious. I also have my day job and everything else, but
Yeah.
I'm if nothing, I'm tenacious.
That you are. That you are opinionated and tenacious. Yes.
What you're gonna do? I mean,
Well, which is, I mean, these are the two necessary, qualities to make things change, right? You just need to know where you want to
yeah.
go, and you need to stick to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't, it's either I move forward or I wait for a miracle, and I'm just not that religious.
I'm gonna reuse that line.
All right, so that's all I have now. Let me show you. Do you read Protobuf?
Uh, I've never tried, but I have a sense of what it looks like. But show me, and then if it's too much, if I barf, you'll stop. And
Yeah, so it's probably very, very broken right now.
okay.
But so let me see. I'll probably do two. Yeah, big letters. All right, so this is what I have. So it basically says, okay, you can have an operation. The
Hmm.
first one is required by this Proto 3 version. Basically, you need to specify like a default invalid thing called zero, so don't worry about it. So the operation might be mint me a new cred, or it might be retrieve a new cred.
Okay.
Okay. Where it comes in, I'll tell you in a second. Your cred type,
Yeah.
unspecified, X509. Maybe there's going to be a workload identity certificate. I don't know if it's actually different from X509, right? But I could easily, change that.
Yeah.
It's entirely, you can actually reuse numbers.
Hmm.
Now, can you reuse numbers?
Yeah. Don't ask me.
Well, it's not liking it, so
Yeah.
yeah, happier now. Okay, so no, there is an option I can put on there that allows reuse. Anyway, so then there is another message. So this is the message. So message is like a call, an API call.
Yeah.
So this one says query mechanism request, right? So it basically says, I would like to know what mechanism to use, and here's my target. And
Yeah.
target is like a URI. Here's the query mechanism's response. Okay, so for this target, you can mint a new wit, or you can retrieve a new jot.
Yeah.
All right. And then it basically says, okay, initiate a remote attestation request for me, please. And the response is nonce.
Yeah.
All right. So this is your standard remote attestation. Do I know where it routed my thing to get the nonce, to get freshness? I don't know or care. I simply say, hey, I'd like to start testing myself, but I need freshness.
Yeah.
It says, well, okay, use this nonce, you'll be good for this target. Then I say, okay, supply evidence. Then I say, okay, to this target, here's my evidence. And that's just bytes. Bytes as in I encoded it, you deal with it.
Yeah.
And I'll figure out like there's probably some sort of a mechanism for encoding EAT that again I can define later. This is early days.
Yeah.
And then the credential response basically says, okay, well, here's your credential type. This is a wit, this is a this, whatever. And here's your credential. It could be a string, or it could be bytes for your pre-shared key, or it could be a X49 cert, or whatever.
Right.
And that's really it. If I know how to call this API, it'll do it for me. And then on
Yeah.
the other end of it, of course, all the translation happens.
Right.
So it's some variant of that's going to
Yeah. I mean, I think if you were to show that to Neil, again, we don't use protobuf, we use CBOR, but the all the APIs in the entire mesh is message passing and message types and responses to those messages. So he's going to say, "Oh yeah, that's like very familiar." So seems very, you basically, yeah, as you said, right? You want abstraction, right? The workload, our mesh agents, they just need to know that they're talking to a trustee, and then the trustee takes everything off the table and basically deals with all the security and trusts and key management and
yeah.
all that stuff. Yeah. I do, there's I do remember that when we did the analysis, the cryptographic analysis of the mesh, there was the whole thing is very brittle. So if you it was important, for instance, that the attester knows the verifier ahead of time, um, and which is probably just a certificate authority. I forgot exactly how we handled it, but there are some intricacies in the way you create the workload so that it can
Well,
be properly recognized.
anything that it needs to be configured could be given to it as part of configuration. So work like as long as the only thing you cannot give to the workload is secrets. But if you need to, like for instance, you may need to tell it, you'll be authenticating to these targets using these credential types.
Yeah, yeah, that it needs for sure. That needs to be
Yeah.
programmed in. Yeah.
So again, like this, nothing survives the contact with reality, no plan. So I will adjust as I go. But this, as at very least, is um, the thought pattern.
I think it's the right thought pattern. As I said, this makes a lot of sense
So
to
I
me.
would love to talk to Neil and consult with him, and basically say, give me before I go dive too deep, because I'm like literally, at this point in time, starting code. Um,
Yeah.
on,
So I should talk to him in an hour and a little
yeah,
bit over an hour. So
have him
I'll
have him pre-read this first. I'm sure he'll grok it,
sure.
and so that I can spend his time wisely. Yeah,
Is this, I'm looking at the minutes here. Can you highlight the link to it?
in a
Because I
minute,
don't
yeah, I
see
can do that.
Tuesday, I see TWI unified model discussed, but extension, but I don't see the link to the document.
Yeah, hold on, I need to zoom back down. Hmm. Here we go.
Wonderful. Great. Open.
So I'm gonna go figure out how to change the EST and Spire protocols today and start implementing.
Cool.
Right.
Okay, I have it
All right.
all. I will share
Yeah.
that with you.
So we can stop now, and I'll see you in a week.
Sounds good.
So yeah,
Appreciate it.
if Neil wants to talk to me, I'll make time. Pretty much any day.
You are what?
I'll make time pretty much any day.
Sounds good. And
All right.
yeah, I mean, this week, right? We'll do that, either, tomorrow or
That sounds
today's
great.
Tuesday. Yeah, we'll do that soon.
Okay.
See you.
Take
Take
care.
care.
Bye bye.
Bye.